Well, hello there. Thanks a million for joining me. Do I have one for you today? I think this may be, well, they played a lot of pretty evil tricks, but today I'm going to be talking about lung cancer. It is, well, what I have to say in opening is, well played, Virginia. You really pulled off a pretty good stunt with this lung cancer business. I can't even, I applaud you for it, okay? In the realm of wickedness, you win this round. Let's hear it for the people from the dark world who are here to get out for the rest of us. This lung cancer thing is just something else. But before I get started here, it is, like I said, I am kind of stunned the strategy of this lung cancer business. But let me also explain something else. I will be back later today because of this. I'm talking today about the lung cancer deal. And yes, at the end of this show, you may want to, if you've avoided smoking and want to, you may want to buy yourself a pack of cigarettes and start smoking. It is something else. And there's something else they're doing that I discovered. I've been talking about how they have all of this stuff organized through the churches, and it's all being put into full play. Why do you think all these different towns and stuff, everybody's going insane, like these homeowners associations are going after certain people and getting their homes? People are ganging up on other people. It's actually called gang stalking, and it's a CIA thing. So, good morning, Virginia. Today is your day. I am heading in your direction. Yeah, the CIA also created this gang stalking thing, and it explains exactly why my own neighbors called the cops on me because that is gang stalking. And let me show you a comment. So, what they've done is they've organized it through all of these churches, and I'll be back more about that later because right now I want to focus on this cancer deal. Let me read this comment. Listen, I was bullied for the first time in my life when I took my Master of Science in Engineering in Sweden. This started in May of 1998. I talked to people at the university but got no help at all. So I decided to identify them and try to see a connection. After 1 year, I had a population of about 300 people, and most of them were religious active. This is not common in Sweden to be active religiously. So when comparing my statistics with social data, I had clear statistical proof. I was bullied by religious fanatics. I then remembered that I was actively critical about religion at that time, 1998, so it all made sense. Between 2000 and 2006, I took samples by following people who bullied me to a car and got the registration number of the car, and then getting the owner of the car and then searching them on social platforms. All of them were connected to one specific church. So let's leave that for now because that is another very clever CIA trick. It almost is going to sound like I'm admiring you people out there in Virginia, but no, I don't pick sides. I don't hate any of you people. I'm just here to tell the people on our team who want to listen what you people have cooked up. So before I get started, I was very upset to read today that American Airlines is not doing well after initiating a booking policy that rubbed many passengers the wrong way. The carrier has seen a dive in profits and is now walking back the controversial strategy for fear of hemorrhaging dollars. Keep track of things. Do not step down. And this is how it works. They will only respond when we respond. So I'll keep moving here. This week, Obama finally endorsed Kamala Harris. Two people who are fake black people now agree with each other. Kamala Harris was vicious when she was the prosecutor in California. She liked having prisoners work for free, putting out those fires. Don't be fooled. Now they're talking about Kamala actually came out and said they want a two-state solution. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Are people going to fall again for another fake black person? I think Kamala Harris's family, for some reason, Obama comes from, I don't know, the Philippine kind of area, that part of Asia. And so does Kamala Harris. None of them are black people. And just this week, Mr. Beast, the person who has millions and millions and millions of children on a platform, they got caught grooming one of the people on his staff, a known tranny on the world's biggest platform for kids, was caught grooming the kiddos. Get them off of those fucking devices. How can you expect to help the children when they're allowed to continue with these people? Take a firm stand. Their team has made a very firm stand against the rest of us, right? Our team is like, well, I kind of like Trump, but I don't like that one. Oh yeah, they're all evil, right? They're all evil. And they never apologize. They will never apologize to you. The US has never apologized to people in Somalia who they drone struck to death. Even when it admitted to killing citizens, they do not apologize. That is part of their demonic thing. But now let's get going on the real point for today. If someone tells someone else they have lung cancer, what's the first question they'd likely get? Well, they want to know, how long did you smoke? And if you had any history of smoking, you will then be blamed for the disease that you have. So I wandered onto this thing that is so fascinating that I could not believe it. Now, I've got active lung cancer from the radiation in my home. So I've said in the past, I don't spend my days searching about lung cancer, but just for the other day, yesterday to be specific, I wanted to look up something specifically about lung cancer because I'm having to learn through other sources, right? Because the doctors don't really say. A lot of these doctors seem confused over why people who don't smoke have lung cancer, right? And you see all these cases of all these people who had no history of smoking with lung cancer. Full disclosure, my father died of cancer in the lung area, and I was led to believe it was from a different reason, okay? But if you start to do the math, why did my father, after those years in the military, get cancer, right? Why do these other military people get cancer? Well, because it's the big lie, right? So what's happened, I'll just give you a quick overview. What's happened is and this is part you're going to go, no, this isn't true. But yes, it is true. They discovered along the way that smoking actually helps us. And so that's the big trick being hidden. So now all of this stuff with radiation and all the stuff they're pumping into our homes, they have the perfect cover because they have convinced the entire world that smokers are the problem for all this lung cancer. Because right now, smoking is down, right? Statistics prove all this stuff. But cancer is up. So you have to ask yourself, well, what's that about, right? So I found some information that just kind of, like I said, I'm still kind of whirling from this information because this deception is a big one, okay? So this one quote said, "But you see, Dachau lover, we no longer believe that smoking is a problem which needs to be cured. I'm sorry that you find it disgusting and filthy and that you believe the lies they have told you about it. But smoking is actually very beneficial for most people. It absolutely is a government conspiracy on top of the implications." So they say that, and they said, "I suspect that psychopaths in power knew full well that a smoking population is far harder to brainwash. Just ask the Nazis." So there's something about people smoking makes it harder for them to be brainwashed. Also, we've now figured out that marijuana use also makes it harder for us to be brainwashed. So I'll go on reading. It is typical how non-smokers, believers, are quick to condemn and call names instead of doing their own research and get some real knowledge. And how naive to trust corporate governments who polluted the world with radiation, depleted uranium, oil spills, and are pushing deadly vaccines and pharma. This is one case they act differently and really care only about our health, right? Trying to get us to quit smoking. I'll keep reading. Oh, wake up. Attacking smokers proves exactly that certain connections in your brain are dead already. And like religious fanatics, you'd attack anybody who doesn't share your limited beliefs. More non-smokers die of cancer these days than smoker, and this is a fact. It's just easier to put the blame for environmental toxins on individuals and divert the attention from the real culprits. What if everything you have been told is true is wrong? Maybe not everything, but the beliefs that have been pushed the hardest on people are the ones to take a good look at. That, of course, requires a mind that is first of all open to the fact that some really big lies have been told. For those who can't go there, no amount of evidence that they have been lied to will ever suffice. Go figure. And here I was thinking that people were actually open and even wanted to know the truth. But I wonder why 85 up to 90% of all let me keep reading here. According to the developed world, 91% of lung cancers deaths in men during the year 2000 were attributed to smoking. So according to them, 91% and 71% for women. In the U.S., smoking is estimated to account for 87% of lung cancer, 90% in men, 85% in women. Among male smokers, the lifetime risk of developing lung cancer is 17.2, and among female smokers, it's 11.6. This risk is significantly lower in non-smokers. It goes down to only 1.3 in men and 1.4 in women. Just because these institutional statistics claim that the patients died of smoking certainly does not make it so. How does one explain the statistical spike in all cancers immediately after World War II? When atmospheric nuclear testing began. The hundreds of years prior to that, no corresponding statistics, and people smoked in larger numbers percentage-wise. Anyway, in the Norwegian study, investigators induced pneumonia, it's this lung inflammation in rats by exposing the animals to radiation. The animals were then exposed to tobacco smoke, and it showed that the smoke actually suppressed the inflammation in the lungs. In short, smoking is good for you if you have inflamed lungs. So let me repeat this. They did a study, a Norwegian study. They gave these rats radiation. Then they gave the rats tobacco smoke. And the tobacco smoke actually suppressed the inflammation in the lungs. So then there was, they said, you are going to love this quote from Sound Truth and Corporate Myths, the legacy of the Exxon Valdez oil spill. It basically says that smokers did much better than non-smokers. During summer 2002, Annie O'Neill, a graduate student at Yale Medical School's Department of Epidemiology and Public Health, conducted an internship with ACAT and AFER, these two nonprofit organizations. And she did it on the cleanup of Exxon, okay? She found, and this is fascinating, the workers in jobs with high oil exposure to oil fumes, mist, and aerosols had a greater prevalence of self-reported symptoms of respiratory problems, neurological problems, and chemical sensitivities than unexposed workers. Among workers with high oil exposure, non-smokers reported a greater prevalence of forms of chronic bronchitis than the smokers. Symptoms of chronic airway disease included sleep apnea, pneumonia, and other conditions, chronic sinus, ear problems, asthma, persistent hoarseness. And they went on to say, I think it would be a good exercise for anyone who is inclined to make statements like these to stop for a minute to ask themselves what information, specific or general, has led them to form their opinion and beliefs. I think in most cases, if people were honest with themselves, they would find that their belief stems from a lifetime of hearing short statements about how smoking kills from media, family, and peers without any kind of accompanying scientific data. I, for one, was fully informed on how smoking kills from a very young age, and I never read any kind of scientific document or article, and I believed it for years. I'm not trying to tell people what to think, but I am trying to encourage people to consider how they think. When a doctor tells you that your mom died of lung cancer, you know she died of lung cancer. But do you really know that it was because of her smoking? No, you do not really know what caused the cancer. Both my grandfathers were heavy smokers all their lives, but neither of them died of lung cancer or any other cancer. They died at the ages of 80 and 84. My sister once worked with an immigrant who had been a doctor in her country of origin. Having performed many autopsies, she said that when cutting open a chest of a smoker, the lungs were usually as pink and healthy as the non-smoker's lungs. There was no evidence from the lungs that indicated a person as being a smoker. For me, that was a valid source of information, more valid than the statistical bar graph of deaths on a Canadian pack of smokes. So where does the majority of information come from that forms your opinion? Well, your government. And if you are a regular reader, you may be aware that your government lies to you every day. And this is what happens from all of this. Lung cancer victims then don't get the care they need. According to a new study, a staggering percentage of men and women in the United States diagnosed with lung cancer do not receive even minimal treatments as recommended by national guidelines. And one group of people in particular are really given short shrift. Now, keep in mind, I will interject this. I have done shows against you do not necessarily want to seek treatment, but let me just keep reading here, okay? I'll keep reading. When I was first started medical school, lung cancer was the #1 cause of death in America. And today, 40 years later, that still holds true. In fact, the American Cancer Society estimates that nearly 135,000 people will die from lung cancer this year. And that's almost triple the rate of colon cancer, the #2 cancer killer. In my view, this lack of progress is a result of one fatally flawed, politically driven decision made at the National Cancer Institute, when I was working there as a young research investigator 35 years ago. At the time, I was researching the connection between diet and all types of cancer. Then one day in 1985, I was called into a meeting with one of our deputy directors who told us they decided, despite the science, that smoking was the one and only cause of lung cancer. So henceforth, almost all of the funding for lung cancer research would be redirected to smoking cessation and prevention programs. As a consequence, they dropped funding and research into the biology and genetics of cancer. They also dropped funding and research into other causes of lung disease, such as urban pollution, prescription drugs, and even sugar. Worst of all, they even dropped funding and research into new screening and treatments. Instead, they poured everything into behavioral modification programs. They pushed these programs on everyone, not just those at risk of developing lung cancer. They also strongly influenced public policy with their flawed views and bad science, and succeeded in banning smoking in public places due to the trumped-up fear of secondhand smoke. And looking back now, we should have seen it coming. After all, the new deputy director had a PhD in psychology and behavioral science. So, of course, he turned lung cancer into a behavioral problem where they blame the victim. That deputy director is long retired, but viewpoints like that do not change. In fact, in 2011, a new generation of experts ridiculed and rejected the widespread use of a new screening test that would detect lung cancers at much earlier stages, when the tumors can still be removed and the disease can be cured. But one expert who now works in my old division carelessly claimed, without any evidence, that it really doesn't matter whether this screening works. Patients at risk for lung cancer wouldn't bother to get screened since they supposedly don't care about their health anyways. Clearly, the blame the victim mentality is as pervasive today as it was back in the 1980s. In addition, as I explained last summer in my Insider's Cures monthly newsletter, plus my Natural Solutions, my account for the increasing number of female non-smokers diagnosed. I got confused there. Wait a second here. 4 out of 10 lung cancer victims fall between the cracks. So they found that 62% of all lung cancer victims got the minimum amount of treatment. 16% of victims got treatment that were well below the minimum recommended levels. 22% got no treatment at all. Not to mention, victims with advanced non-small cell lung cancers were the least likely to get the minimum treatments prescribed by guidelines. Of course, this type of cancer is most associated with excess tobacco smoking. So the lack of care simply reflects the strong bias against smokers. There are also demographic factors that influence care. Patients older than 80 years old were 88% less likely to get the minimum amount of care compared to patients 50 and younger. Black patients were almost 25% less likely to get minimum care compared to whites. So if you're an older Black man with a type of lung cancer associated with tobacco, you're least likely to get the minimum amount of recommended care. Usually the government loves to label, locate, and then rescue victims in our culture, but they clearly have no love for victims of lung cancer. which brings me to my next point. Depending upon the type of lung cancer and its stage of growth, the recommended care often includes surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, which makes me wonder whether getting less than the minimum standard treatment could actually be a blessing in disguise. Did you hear me? They're saying that. They're saying what I have been saying, and do your own research. Getting care for cancer is also a deadly thing to have happen. So you got to decide for yourself. Pull yourself out of the system or let them continue to torture you. It's a pretty clear choice, right? So, cancer begins when genetic changes interfere with the normal replication and replacement of cells in the body. Cells start to grow uncontrollably and may form a tumor. It is the number 2 leading cause of death in the United States. Unfortunately, it appears the disease may be on the rise also thanks to the experimental COVID-19 injections, because official U.S. government data confirms the risk of developing cancer following COVID-19 vaccination increases a shocking 143,000 times. So the shot itself will increase it. Remember, it's not actually a vaccine. So a quick search of the CDC database on the number of cancer cases reported as adverse reactions to the COVID-19 injections since they were first rolled out in the USA reveals that from December 2020 up to 5 August 2022, a total of 2,579 adverse events related to cancer were made in just 1 year and 8 months. And really, that's all they know about, right? So they're showing you the statistics here. Many will simply argue without backing their claim up with any evidence that this is just because of the volume of COVID-19 injections compared to other vaccines. But unfortunately, anyone who argues this is wrong. They can see by the numbers, and I'll have these charts and these articles below. They show how these flu vaccine doses and then the cancer causing ones. So the CDC also confirms that between 2008 and 2020, a period of 13 years, there were 64 events related to cancer reported as of adverse reactions to the influenza vaccines. Based on the number of adverse events related to cancer alone, and these people are getting the information directly from the source, okay? So when people try to argue that this isn't true, focus on the source. So what they're saying, they go on to say, based on the number of adverse events related to cancer alone, we can see that there have been 40 times as many cancer cases relating to COVID-19 vaccines than there have been related to flu vaccines. So something is definitely changing with this vaccine, but it's really a shot, right? But while the shockingly the statistic doesn't properly represent the severity of the situation, but the cancer is all the way up. But cancer really is, it's see what's going on is they're finding that cancer is also coming out as via these injections, right? So let me get back to the nicotine part. Nicotine actually stimulates the vagus nerve, that's VAGUS nerve. So what they found is that nicotine also staves off Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Nicotine can increase brain function and speed cognition up to 40%. It can also protect against plaques and off-planet viruses. And they also went on to say, do your own research. Why did the Eton schools over there in the UK make all their boys smoke during that time. Just a few reasons off the top of my head. Be great, be brave, go down the rabbit hole. It won't kill you, but ignorance might. You owe it to your loved ones if nothing else. Knowledge protects, ignorance endangers. All is one great, humongous deception. We all hate being lied to. So start researching with critical skill thinking and maybe some good organic tobacco while you're puffing away and help wake people up to the mass deceptions by sharing its antidote, the truth. Everybody needs to keep talking. Our silence will be our demise. Being quiet lets them pick off people like myself. Learn to stand in solidarity. What am I doing here? I am trying to continually to document the horrors. I will do my best as long as I can to document exactly what they're doing and how they did it. Because wakey kids, if we don't understand how this stuff all got started, how we got led into this trap, it will repeat itself. So what do I have down for you today? I have a couple funny things because the MAGA people and this JD Vance thing, well, JD Vance, these people are all actors, okay? But the actors we want to pay attention to are the 1%. The JD Vances of the world and the Kamala Harrises are just their little puppet acts. So I pulled out a funny one. And also, heads up if you're in the Middle East. Kamala Harris came out and said exactly what the plan is. She is basically saying, fuck you to the Muslim world. The USA will stand with Israel. Watch out, they're out to get the rest of your people from their own lips. She says the USA is sorry about Gaza. What the fuck is that about? Now that most of the people are murdered over there, they're asking for a two-state solution? No way. They need to give you back what they stole. So watch her clip. Learn to look for how they signal us and how they look when they're flat out lying. Do you really think Kamala Harris is going to be calling for peace in the Middle East? That is they have stolen your Muslim children to populate themselves in Israel. Wakey, kids. I also have that huge article, Smoking Helps Protect Against Lung Cancer. Lung cancer victims don't get the care they need. U.S. data confirms the increase in COVID things due to cancer. Smoking helps protect against lung cancer. All of those articles are down below. In order for you to explain it to others, you need to understand it completely. It's got to go beyond you listening to me for a few minutes and, yeah, I got this. I'll go out and tell mom why she should keep smoking. If you start trying to tell people they should keep smoking, well, I don't know. Might not go well for you because people are so embedded in this smoking deal. But here's the deal. I have reached out just in the last few hours to the couple of people that I know who are still smoking and said, hey, heads up, keep smoking. Don't put away those cigarettes if you can still afford to smoke them. Get yourself some organic ones. It is a huge trick. Keep in mind, their team shows nothing but solidarity toward each other. How about some solidarity towards those of us out here in the wilderness trying to talk to some of you? Show us you care. Reach out. Keep talking. Write us letters. You don't have to send us money. Write us letters. Tell us you care. Tell us how you're doing. You know how to get in touch with me. And if you find out a way to get in touch with somebody like Rusty Nelson, well, give him a gift card. You can go and figure out how to buy an untraceable gift card to help the guy out with some cash. You can do that for me. You could do that for all of us. Just even a note saying, hi, I'm out here. That would show solidarity. Their team has circled our necks like a noose. We need to continue to keep speaking. And I'll be back with this gang stalking thing. If you think this whole thing about smoking is strange, wait till I come back later with gang stalking. And I like to know what's going on. And gang stalking is exactly what they're doing. And surprise, surprise, it's all being organized by all of these churches all over the place. This trap. They set us up. They put the churches in all these places. They put the police there. They put all these people there to get us to confess things, to entrap people. Well, now all their people are after those of us who didn't get entrapped. Show some solidarity. Even just saying hello is solidarity. It's important for us to also know that you're out there knowing that we're fighting the cause for all of us. That's what it's all about. Our team needs to understand this. Someone who is willing to take a bullet to the brain, like I clearly am, makes for a far dangerous enemy for these psychopaths in charge. And for that, I will leave it alone. And good morning, Virginia. You know I don't hate any of you. You know this is about solidarity. Please hear my words. You only have one soul. They want you in the dark. Going to the dark side may not benefit you through eternity. Just thinky. Be safe out there and goodbye for now.